we've been talking a lot today about different value propositions and how our task fits into the overall value change. And a lot of the discussion has been around the value to the operators. What about value to the drilling contractors?
I'm going to be very careful here because I do not represent the drilling contractors. But I think it's safe to say, they have a vested interest. I would say morally and legally. They have to do everything they can to protect their asset, the drilling rig, the people, the equipment on the location. And they have to follow certain regulations as well, right? Any tool that helps them protect their asset has to be of some value to them, right? The boundary conditions are both extremes. In a great situation where you've got a very knowledgeable driller, a great directional hand, your well site supervisor, everybody's in tune, you're probably not going to be in danger. Change any one of those variables, worst case boundary condition, change them all, right? And you've got their $25 or $35 million drilling rig on a well site that's just a disaster waiting to happen, right? It's a dollar amount that they're looking at, but it's also the legal bills and the license to operate, if you will, when their people get hurt, right? So anything that protects their asset and their people has to have some value to it. Right? It also stops, I guess in my view, that would be the negating the downside. There's a positive to it. If they had this system working and me as the operator could take advantage of that and say, let's say we could drill and take half a day off without exceeding any borehole conditions and still keep that time savings. That's the less, time is money. If we can knock a half a day out by running a little bit closer to the line, but not over the line, that's the contractor that I want to use, right?
And what amazes me about some of the comments is we've heard for years, especially on the more complex wells, of the bridging necessary between contractor requirements and operator. And the bridging documents on well control. Well, we all know contractors are tasked for well control. But the overall responsibility for well control, frankly, is everybody on location. And
starts with well design.
Yeah, and we all go back to that. So one of the things that we have automatically architected is the value to the contractor is also important and as important as it is to the operator. Mm-hmm. If for no other reason, especially on well control, it gives the user, the driller, for example, the ability through alarm management to have a discussion with the operator representative on location, the critical thinking. Those things that are so important.
Even if we're not talking the catastrophic event of a well control, if you're talking stuck pipe, a lot of the drilling contractors are providing their own drill pipe, right? Every time the rig gets stuck and they start shooting holes in their drill pipe to regain circulation or to shoot it off and come around it, they're losing some of their assets. Now, they would love to charge 100% replacement cost. Some of them have that in their contract, but a lot of times it's current value of that pipe. Their inventory is going down. It's not like drill pipe is sitting waiting just to go to work. So their asset is being reduced by whatever we leave in the hole, right? Their value of their company is going down by that. And it doesn't matter whether you look just at drill pipe. That's the obvious one. Every time we beat on BOPs or top drives, how many times have you taken out a gooseneck?
Oh, yeah.
Right? How many times has the light's been shaken out of Derek when you're jarring on stuff? Right? I mean, just it you can go from light bulbs to drilling rig value in this whole thing, but it literally it's a reduction in their asset every time something goes off planet.
That's exactly right. You're looking at stuck pipe, just an incidental on stuck pipe. You got the physics of you're torquing that pipe, you're pulling on that pipe, you're compressing that pipe.
Mhm.
Just the physics of
Taking the life out of it.
you're taking the wear on
Yeah.
that pipe and reducing the life of the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when they're free, they don't charge you for that right there. They don't charge the operator for that, but it is a cost to them.
It's,
Every time you set off a jar, you're doing damage. Yeah.
A
To
viewpoint,
some
that,
extent.
a viewpoint that was presented to me from somebody who worked at a contractor recently was that sometimes they will try to bring something up to the operator and the operator will shut them down.
Mhm.
And because the people on location and the people who have been tasked to bring this to them don't actually have the knowledge to combat them
Mhm.
or any resources behind them, it just gets shut down. And ultimately it's Mr. X's decision.
Mhm.
But this gives them something to take to that person.
Exactly.
It's not just me saying this.
Yeah.
Look at all this.
it's the equivalent of when you're stuck and you want to exceed 80% of whatever your lift limit is. Somebody has to sign off on it, right?
Right.
This is a very similar situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we talk about human factors, and that's important. Yet we never give the driller the information to have a reasonable discussion about some of the problems and what's occurring. So you can't hardly integrate or expect a good human factor outcome without some of the tools and knowledge to have the discussion around to begin with.
Let's talk about a cost savings we haven't talked about. Your service companies, the tools that are down hole.
Mm-hmm.
You look what happens when you're stuck on a tool down hole. You take the chance of leaving up to $1 million worth of tools in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of companies now are saying, yeah, we'll sign that insurance, but we'll self-insure ourselves. Well, guess what? Somebody's got to pay that. You're going to pay that premium one way or the other. Then you go in and just the fact of the stability of the hole. Look, we were talking about this earlier. The use of downhole tools, motors versus other tools. You're in the hole. You're abusing that motor. You're stalling that motor. You're doing this. You're doing all the things that you shouldn't be doing, and all of a sudden you're tripping for a new motor. And then you've got a rebuild fee inside that. Then you've got this other. We were talking about earlier. Right there is the fact that your logistics is one of your significant unassociated cost. I called a cement unit out there to be out there at midnight tonight, and I don't need him till noon tomorrow. He's not sitting out there free. And the logistics part of that, doing the real time, you might want to get a call up and say, hey, we want to set him off about 12 hours. We're not anywhere near where we're at.
Yep.
You look at the real time, the benefits to the rig itself that you're looking at it, and I always make my people on the rig do a forecast, a plan. I don't want any 6-day plan. I want a 3-day plan. And a 48-hour plan is fine enough with me if that's what they want to do. But I want to see where they're supposed to be tomorrow so that they can know, and we know the problems right there. Because in a phone call in the morning, how you doing? Well, we had trouble yesterday with the test pump wouldn't start, and well, that was yesterday. We didn't have a chance. We want to be able to fix that going into the future. That cost us money. That test pump not starting. Or one right there that I just got through was 18 hours getting the BOP boats off of a BOP.
Mm-hmm.
They'd over-torqued it. The torque company had come out and over-torqued the boats. Why? Because they had the only torque machine that would undo them. So they were going to get guaranteed a callback. So those are the type of things that we keep in the records, the learning lessons that we see and are able to capture. But it also goes to the real time of wait a minute, we don't need these people out there for that standby.
Well, I think, just kind of wrap that part of the discussion up, we have built a system that we feel is important for service providers, for contractors, for operators. And again, another point on service providers. If you incur stuck pipe and you have, for example, a radioactive source in the hole, you got a real problem.
Oh yeah.
You got a real problem. And so, you know, the directional folks of the world and the LWD, MWD folks that have those kind of tools and hoe should be very concerned about getting them stuck, because there's no guarantee they're going to be retrieved, and then you got a whole different ballgame. So it's important across the board, and that's why we've architected RTAS to reach across those boundaries, so to speak.
Well, I want to thank everyone for being on the panel today. It's been, I think, a very productive discussion. It's a very frank and open discussion, and it's been, for me, and I hope for everyone else, very illuminating. I want to thank my panelists again, and I think that we've concluded with a couple of conclusions. One of which is that a proactive real-time system, such as our DrillSage RTAS system, is essentially a step change in how we can do drilling going forward. And by using such a system, it will improve our safety of our operations, it will provide cost benefits to our operations, and it will raise the bar and raise the expectation level of how we deliver drilling going forward. I want to thank you again, and look forward to speaking with you all soon.